I'm gonna go into presentation mode. Let's go back. Okay. All right, so let's talk about business websites. Okay, let's talk about before you're starting, or if you're updating your website. Here are some things that you can do. So before you ever pay someone or waste your own valuable time creating a website, you want to make sure that your brand identity is like, it's all there. You want to make sure your colors, your logo, your font, that you've had a photographer come and take pictures that you can use on your website. Your whole visual brand identity really needs to be all packaged up and ready to go for a website. If you need help with that, we have an earlier training that was given on creating your brand and everything by Ashley, and it's fabulous. So you could go back and watch that if you need some help with branding. The next thing you are going to do is you need to identify your website's purpose, right? So sometimes websites are just informational. Sometimes you're showcasing products. Sometimes you're sharing your knowledge about a certain topic. Whatever it is, you want to know exactly what the purpose is of your website. The next thing that kind of plays into the purpose is, okay, so now you know what your purpose is. So what is your call to action on your website? When someone logs onto your website and they're looking at your webpage, what's the end result that you want them to do? What's the action you want them to take? Do you want them to schedule an appointment with you? Do you want them to buy one of your products or services? Maybe make a reservation for a table at a restaurant? What's the end result, okay? Because you want to have that end result, that call to action, like reserve a table, schedule an appointment. You want to have that call to action scattered throughout every page on your website, because that's what you're driving people to do. So make sure you know your call to action. And then the other thing is, if you're starting a website from complete scratch, you also need to create some initial content, right? You can't just create a website without having content to go on the pages, or you shouldn't pay someone to create a website for you and then they have no content to put on your website. So if you're thinking about building a website right now and you don't have one at all and no content to work with, I would suggest just starting a Google document and just writing your about page, writing a couple blog posts, listing your products and services, getting all that stuff together. Because if you can hand that to a web designer or have it for reference for yourself, it will make website building much more smooth. So those are things that you need to do before you get started with a website or a redesign as well. Oops, I have to click on this. All right, so now we're gonna go through the steps of how you actually get started building a website. These are the tools that you need to actually have a website. So you're going to need to pick a content management system. And a content management system is exactly that. It is where you're going to manage every single word, photo, block of color, everything that is on your website will be managed in the content management system, okay? And it's what is often referred to as the back end of the website, right? And that's where you go in and you do all the editing, and then you press publish, and on the front end will appear this pretty website, hopefully. Sometimes it's a disaster and you have to go back and fix things, but that's okay. But you have to pick a content management system, and there are a lot of them out there. But I will say that WordPress is your #1 content management system. All these other ones are really good. They work, but they're not very buildable and expandable. They aren't the smartest platforms, all of those things. I know a lot of people have built websites on Wix around here, and they're okay, but it's hard to really build on those websites. But they're
Julian,
quick fix, yes.
real quick question, because I teach WordPress through NDEC, and I had just found that WordPress, especially if you're going to use the free version, is very limited though. So you would definitely have to pay for it, right?
Yes, you shouldn't use the free WordPress, just like with Wix or Weebly, right? So you can pay to go on there and have a website, but unless you pay the money, your free version is going to say like jilliantaylor.weebly.com instead of just jilliantaylor.com,
Okay.
right? So if you pay the money to have your WordPress site, it's going to give you more credibility because you won't be jilliantaylor.wordpress.com. You'll be jilliantaylor.com, right?
Right. And is that a yearly payment for that, or do you pay
You know,
once?
I'm honestly not sure. But I know WordPress it's very cheap. It's very cheap. Just like you can find cheap hosting and stuff too, which I'm going to talk about. Um, uh, Generally, what I say is the most expensive thing about a website is I always recommend having a professional build your website to a certain point, and then having that professional train you on how to go in and use that back end of that site and, add your weekly specials to your menu, or change your products and services. So you're not asking them to do all of that stuff, but paying, a person, sometimes it can be a couple $1,000 depending on the person and what you want, but making that initial investment, because once you make that investment and have your website set up the way you want it, and you make sure that the professional has done search engine optimization and all of those things and has set it up perfectly for you, then you can take on the bulk of the load and begin just doing edits, switching out a photo, doing things like that. That's easy. The getting your website set up correctly, that's where I recommend people use a professional.
Jillian, I found on WordPress, the prices.
Oh yeah, great.
So best for personal use is $4 per month. It says billed yearly. Premium, best for freelancers. It says it's popular. It's $8 per month, billed yearly. Business, the one that's best for small business, is $25 per month, billed yearly. And e-commerce, it says best for online stores is $45 per month, billed yearly.
Yep. Yeah. So it's not a huge expense, which is good to know, right? So you're only going to have one initial investment with a website. So save that, set aside $1,000, $2,000, depending on what you want, set it aside, make that initial investment. And then after that, your website becomes very cheap. WordPress it 62% of the websites on the World Wide Web right now use WordPress. That's more than all of the others combined. So again, WordPress is the thing that you should be using. It is the content management system that you should be using. I don't recommend Wix or Weebly. It's a quick fix, but you can't build on those. And once you've made a Weebly website and you decide, oh, I really want to add an e-commerce store and I want to do this, this, and this, and this. Well, now you have to pay someone to move your entire Weebly website over to WordPress and possibly do some rebuilding. So is that really worth it? Probably not. Okay, the next thing you're going to do is you need website hosting. And hosting allows you to make your website accessible on the internet, okay? And there are a couple of places that you can go to get website hosting. Bluehost, GoDaddy. I know that Axiom here in Machias was offering hosting. I'm not certain if they do that anymore, but
Yeah, they still do.
okay, Bluehost and GoDaddy are going to be your cheapest options for hosting. What's great about Bluehost, they will offer you a free SSL certificate, which is like a site security certificate with it, which just gives you some more credibility with your website, especially if you're running an e-commerce store on it. They'll give you that for free. On both of those platforms as well, you can go and buy your domain name on Bluehost and GoDaddy right there as well, and your hosting. So it's kind of like two birds, one stone. Great segue. Okay, the next thing you're gonna need is your domain name. Okay, so let's talk about this one for a second. just like we talked about in my Instagram training, how your Instagram handle should be your business name, right? It shouldn't have any special characters or weird numbers thrown in there, right? It needs to be your business name. Well, your domain name needs to be the same thing. It needs to be your business name, okay? Not, mybusiness27.com, like it needs to be your business name. Because if people know your business name and they go to search you, but your website has a bunch of weird special characters in it, there's a good chance you may not pop up in search. So make sure your site is your actual name. And then by having your own domain name too, you can get customized emails. So like I could have Jillian@jilliantaylor.com, right? So that makes you look even more credible. So that's really good. You can set that up. The other thing I wanted to say, one other thing about domain names, and now it's escaped me. Maybe I'll remember it here in a minute. I'll have to think on it. There's one other thing I wanted to tell you that just popped up and I can't remember it. Again, is someone asking a question?
It's me.
Yes.
It's your turn.
Yep.
On the domain names, did you want to mention maybe somewhere you can search for existing domain names or?
Yeah, actually, I'm diving into that right now. So you can, on Bluehost and GoDaddy, you can search for domain names, and it will tell you can type in any domain in the entire world, and it will tell you if someone else owns it. It will tell you how much it is. Oh, I want to talk about pricing. That's what I was going to tell you. So pricing for domain names it's all over the place, right? So most of the domain names that I own for myself, I've bought them for like $11.99. Okay, so like really cheap. But I also tried to buy my name, JillianTaylor.com. Well, that one was like $5,700. So no thanks. I'll find a different domain name, right? So it could be all over the place. More than likely, your domain name is going to be really, really cheap. But some people do sell domain names for a lot of money. So anyways, but these
Jillian,
yes.
This is Lisa, real quick. On the name, so I discovered I have welchfarm.com, which is what I wanted. But I just noticed there is now a farm out west who has now done the welchfarm.com.
Yep.
Do you suggest that we buy anything similar to?
Yep, you can buy similar sites like that, like the Welch Farm, or if some people will accidentally call you like Welsh's farm, all like you can buy all those odd names that go with it, and then if a web designer, like a professional, can set up those other domain names to redirect to your actual website.
Okay.
Yes, I know a few businesses that do that. Yep.
Well, yeah, I was just a little concerned because this farm has named themselves and is marketing the Welch Farm.
Yep.
So they couldn't get Welch Farm, so they just added the in front of it.
Yep. Some people do that. So you can try to purchase those beforehand, but now unfortunately there's basically nothing you can do unless you want to call them and try to buy them out.
Yeah, no thanks.
That's my only answer for that, which is not helpful, right?
Right.
Okay. The last thing that you need before you can start designing your website is a theme. And a theme is going to give the overall look and feel of your website. I mean, if you were if you know how to code and do all that stuff, you wouldn't necessarily need to start with a theme if you didn't want to. But even most designers that I know, they will walk their customers through a bunch of themes and have them pick one because it's a great place to start building from. It's like a template, and then you insert your information or you make this section a little bit larger and change things, but it's a good starting point. And then within the theme, you'll be able to change it to your colors and your font and all of your branding. You'll be able to put that into the theme as well. So I wanted to jump off this presentation and show you a few themes online and show you what I mean. So give me 1 second. I'm going to try to see if technology will work with us. And can everyone still see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, perfect. Can we see this web page now?
Themes, WordPress.
Okay, great. So you can just go onto wordpress.com and check out a bunch of themes that they have. These are going to be what our home pages, and then I believe you can click into these and see what other pages. They might have an about page already created for it, and a contact page, and a few pages that you can pull from. And then you would install this theme onto your WordPress content management system, okay? There are lots of these. However, I will say, I have used WordPress themes like this, and sometimes on the back end, they're really, really difficult to deal with, okay? So there's a couple of themes, and I call them themes, but they're really builders that you install on top of WordPress that are fabulous and a little bit more user-friendly. Jen knows about these because we've used these for all of our Sunrise County websites that we created. And it just makes web design that much more user-friendly. This one is not the only one either. So this is Divi, and I wonder if it will let me just play the video, because the video is going to give you a lot better understanding of it. But these types of themes, Divi, and there's a couple other ones. One of my other clients is using a different one. The name escapes me, but they're all the same idea. Instead of just being a theme, it's an actual website builder that has multiple themes within it that you can choose from. And the reason I recommend these, so even the web designers that I know are using these, but then it's easier to turn your website back over to your client and say, okay, your website is done. Let's train you on how to use it. How can you make updates to the homepage? How can you update photos and everything? These platforms are so much more user-friendly than any of the other themes that I've really played with out there. I'm gonna try to play the video for you guys really quick. Let me know if it works.
Building a website is kind of like painting a masterpiece, except it's nothing like painting a masterpiece. See, when you paint something, you can actually see what you're doing. So when you draw a little house, look, there's a little house. But when you're building a website in WordPress, you're working on the back end with an interface that's built for content creation, not design. Plus, you have no idea how anything will actually look on the site. Hard to create a masterpiece that way.
Masterpiece.
Now there's Divi. With Divi, you can create your WordPress website on the actual website in real time. So if you want to add a widget or text, go ahead, add it. Everything is drag and drop and totally customizable. Shape, size, font, color, and with over 40 different content elements, there's nothing you can't add. So now, building a website really is like painting a masterpiece, only a whole lot easier. Divi, the fastest, easiest way to build beautiful websites.
Okay, that's Divi. And there are a few other things like that, but instead of really working all completely on the back end, you can go onto the front end of the website, see what it actually looks like, and then drag and drop. And it's just a lot more user-friendly if you are not a professional website builder. So definitely recommend those. Okay, I'm gonna jump back onto my presentation now. All right, so those are themes. And we already explored the themes. So after all of that is done, you can start designing your website, okay? So I'm gonna give you a few design tips as well. Okay, number one design tip, make your website responsive. There's actually nothing worse than a website that is not responsive. Responsive means that the website is going to restructure itself depending on what device you're looking at your website on, whether it be like a giant TV, a laptop, a phone, a tablet, anything that you're looking at a website on, it will restructure all of the elements on your website, and it will flow smoothly and have the same look and feel, just slightly restructured. You always want to make sure your site is responsive. Also, if your site isn't responsive, Google will push it down in the search as well. So you won't get as many search results for your website. So that's really important. The next thing, which kind of goes back to creating your whole brand kit, but make sure that the fonts on your website are easy to read. There's a lot of times that I've seen different places use really like scripty fonts. And while those can be really fun, sometimes if they get too scripty, you can't read them. And if your person can't read, if your user can't read something on your website, that's really bad, right? So you just want to make sure that everything is easy and clear on your website. The next thing you want to do is use really good pictures. And I can't stress this enough that hiring a professional photographer to come in and take photos of your products or you performing your service, whatever it is, if you can have a photographer come in and take pictures of you, a great photo can really decide whether someone is going to make a purchase from you or not. So having great photos scattered all throughout your website is a really great idea. There's a lot of great photographers right here in Washington County. I also know a couple photographers that they literally, all they do is take photos of products and services. That's what they do. They don't do family photos or anything like that. So I could recommend a few of those people if you'd like, but photos really can make or break your website. So choose wisely. Don't use blurry photos either because they're not high enough quality. All of those things matter. And the other thing that's really, really trendy right now in websites is that using a lot of white space. It used to be that you would log onto a website and every single inch of it was loaded with words and blocks of color and buttons and all the things, right? Well, if you look at any of the really popular marketing, whether it be print marketing or websites, anything that you look at now, they're using a lot of white space. And when I say white space, it doesn't necessarily mean that the space around these things has to be white, but it means just blank spaces, because that is really going to draw people's eye into what you want them to look at, right? You want them to look at this product, or you want them to read this paragraph about your company. Well, if you have it loaded with everything else, they don't really know where to look. But if you are using a website that has beautiful spacing around it, people are going to know exactly where you want them to look on your site. So use white space, okay? So now, those are my design tips for you. We're going to move into reasons why you really should have a business website and what it can do for you, okay? Let's see if I'll go to the next one. Maybe, there we go. Okay, so now more than ever, right? Everybody is online searching for things. Ever since the pandemic hit, you know, you've had to do curbside delivery. And if you're a business that has had no website, how do you do, you know, curbside delivery? You've had to just do it over the phone. All of these things, you've had to change your marketing. So a website as a whole is a great tool for you, but your website is an anchor for your marketing. Everything that you do to talk about your business, whether it's in a newspaper, the radio, social media channels, any place that you talk about your business, you can refer them back to your website. Your website is your marketing anchor. You own it, you control it, and it can support all of your efforts because it's a place to drive people to, right? Because just like we talked about in my social media trainings, social channels are meant, they're not the last stop, right? You don't want people to go to your Facebook page and that be it. You want them to take that next step. They are traffic drivers, whether that is come into my store or visit my website or whatever it is, except for we know that people can't visit stores as easily right now, right? So going to your website should be the final destination of all of your marketing. Okay, you're gonna use it to put all of your business information in one place, right? Your address, your phone number, your email, your menu or list of services, prices, special promotions, events, literally everything that you do needs to be on there, and it has to be up to date. You lose calls because if you changed your address, like you moved locations, but you didn't say that on your website, you will lose customers. You don't answer your email that is on your website, you will lose customers, okay? All of these things, having these things up to date and managing all of these things is so important on a website. Like, think about it. You're driving down the road and you're like, oh, I need to call that business. I have a question for them. And you go onto their website and then you call their phone, but it says, this number can't be reached. It's out of service, whatever. You're gonna just find a new business to do the same job, because that's very frustrating for users. Okay, so you want to make sure that everything on your website is up to date and correct information. That's also why it's important to be able to, even if you have a professional designer design your website and get it all ready for you, it's important that you can go in there and make those little changes, because you don't want to pay someone like myself $50 to go in and change your phone number, right? That's a waste of money when you could go in there and do it really, really quickly. Okay. So changing those things at a moment's notice is important.
Jillian, if I could just mention here, my husband and I went out to dinner last night, and a couple of our local restaurants put their special menus on their website, and on their Facebook page. Yep. Well, one of them had updated their specials menu and the other had not. Mm-hmm. So we went to the one that we could see what the specials were, so yeah. That kind of thing makes a difference.
Yep, it does. Absolutely. So going back to creating the final destination for your marketing efforts, right? So we've talked about a call to action. We're going to use a call to action on your website, right? But you're also using calls to action on literally every other piece of marketing that you're doing. And a lot of times, like if you did a radio ad, you might not be able to say everything that you want to say about your business in that short radio ad. But what you can say is, visit our website to learn more. And then that makes your final destination your website. And on your website, then you're also going to have your call to action. Like if you're saying, visit my website to learn more about this product, and then the call to action on your website is purchase this product, you're just leading them through this sales funnel, right? So you need to have calls to action on all of your marketing that lead to your website. And then your website has a call to action, like we talked about, where you're making a final sale, you're, scheduling an appointment, whatever your purpose is on your website. Okay. So your website is more than just to give information to people. It is literally funneling all of your marketing onto that website. Okay, the other really cool thing that you can do on a website is set up an e-commerce store, okay? Once you make the initial investment of creating your website, actually adding the e-commerce store isn't that much more expensive. Like if you already have a website right now and you're like, you know what? I would really like for customers to be able to add all these things to their cart and make the purchase, and then we can do curbside delivery out to them so they don't have to come into the store. We don't have to run back into the store with their credit card and come back out. It can all be done on the website, and it will keep track of your inventory. That's not a hard ask to do on a website. If you ask any web designer, they can set that up for you very easily. And if you already have a website, you've already made the big investment. An e-commerce store would just be a little bit more. It's not going to be another huge investment. So don't feel like setting up an online store is like this huge deal, With the help of a professional, it could really go simple, seamless, and really help your business, especially in times like this. Does anybody have questions about e-commerce stores? Nothing. No one has a store. No one wants to have a store at all on their website.
I have a question that probably isn't business website related. Shipping solutions. Have you, in your business travels and working with clients, are you aware of local shipping options aside from someone doing it themselves?
I'm not really aware of that. I know that a couple of my clients have set up like, you can work with, I mostly do not do like serious web design for my job. I usually work with another lady that really does like the nitty gritty stuff, right? And so when I work with her, she will work with the Postal Service or UPS or whoever it is, and they can offer shipping solutions that can work with your e-commerce store online. But that's also not going to be same day delivery or anything like that. You know what I mean? So yeah. But you can have those move together. The most common e-commerce store is called WooCommerce, WOO Commerce. And I was reading an article last night, and WooCommerce is used in like 80% of WordPress websites that have an e-commerce store. Like they're the WordPress e-commerce store, and it's very buildable too. Like if you need to build in certain specialty shipping things, all that stuff. One of my clients who all they do is ship products is using WooCommerce now, and it's a really great option. We've been able to add a few plugins to make it work for us, and we're all set. Yeah. The other thing is, okay, you don't sell products, you sell services, right? So maybe you need people to book with you. A lot of times that's done over the phone. However, the younger the generation, the less likely they are to pick up the phone. And sometimes, you know, you're in a meeting or you're in a rush or you don't want to make the phone call. You just want to be able to go onto that website and schedule an appointment and not have to talk to another human, right? Well, adding a booking calendar is actually extremely simple to add to a website, and you can mark days and times that are open and, you know, block off other times that are closed, right? So you can set the schedule. It doesn't have to be wide open and someone could, you know, schedule an appointment on Saturday at 9 p.m., right? You set the schedule and then they can pick what they want to, where, you know, what time works for them. But you set the schedule, which is really, really nice. It's very convenient. And then that can auto-populate to your calendar as well, so that you know exactly when people are coming in. Instead of trying to have people like, oh, you can call me later to set up an appointment. You can just say, hey, visit my website. You can see all my open appointments, pick one that works for you. All of those things. You can also set it so the calendar can be like, okay, let's say you, I don't know, you own a hair salon and, you know, some appointments take longer than others, right? So you could have them say, I want this, this, and this service. And then it would bump out larger calendar slots for you as well. So there are so many tools. It's very buildable. If you can think if you think it could happen, it can happen on the website. You know, if you want it built a certain way, it can happen. There are tons of plugins and tools that can make it work.
Jillian, we have a question on the chat.
Yep.
You mentioned Bluehost offers free SSL certificate. If you use something other than Bluehost, do you buy one somewhere else? And is this easy?
You should be able to buy one wherever you get hosting, and it should be easy. It should be on their website, and if it's not on their website, I would just call them. You should be able to get it wherever you get hosting. GoDaddy offers them. I mean, there's a couple other hosting sites too. Those are just the two, you know, giants. But yeah, you should be able to get it wherever you get hosting. So just contact them.
This may not be free.
It's probably not going to be free. But most likely, again, it will be something cheap. You know, they'll want to get $3 out of you a month or something like that for it. All these little add-ons.
Jillian?
Yes.
For the online, this is Rhonda, online booking calendar, a publisher that I work with has a schedule a meeting to visit with me at the bottom of her email. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, Calendly or
Yes, Calendly. I've used it before. I don't know how to pronounce it either.
do you have recommendations of good online booking calendar?
That's a good one. The one that you just talked about. However, it's very dependent on how powerful you want the calendar and what you want it to do. Like, do you just want it to have appointment slots? Do you like when they book an appointment, how much information are you asking of them? All of those things. So my recommendation would be to ask whoever you're using to help you design your website, ask them what they feel like would be a good option for you, because there are so many and all of them have different powers.
Right. What I was thinking, this is totally unrelated to the business that I'm thinking about, but East Point Assisted Living are starting now to accept visitors for the
Yes.
residents, and they're doing everything by a paper schedule. And they have certain slots, and I was wondering if something like this might be good for them.
Yeah, and then you don't have to have a human person really dealing with it all the time, where I'm assuming that if they're doing paper scheduling, they have someone sitting by the phone and answering calls about all of these schedules, and then they have to walk them through all the open slots and all that, where if you had the website, you could just direct them there. This is where you schedule appointments. They go on, all the information they need is right there, and then you just have to have someone, watching the calendar, making sure it doesn't get too full, whatever that might be. But yeah, it takes the workload off an actual employee, really.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Lisa. I noticed that she mentioned another one in chat called Booksy, so I will check those out. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Another two things that you want to make sure are strong on your website are your about page. And if you do have a blog, you want to make sure that it's an active blog. Don't write one blog post and then never post again, right? Then you don't have a blog. You have a website page. People will go to especially if you're a service-oriented business, people will go to your blog to learn more about your service. So if you are talking about, I don't know, like if you're a yoga instructor, right? You could write blog posts or vlog videos that would go on your blog that would explain different, I don't know, poses and stretches and all of these things, right? So people will look at your blog to see how knowledgeable you are about a subject. Then they'll also be looking at your about page, because a lot of people now, especially younger generations, the younger the generation, they want to know about your business, why you're in business, if it's a family business, that they're giving money to a business who cares about their community, that they're giving they're spending their dollars at a place that aligns with the same values that they have. So you want to make sure that your about page explains all of those values and your brand's mission, and if you give back to your community in any fashion, you want to have that all there, because a lot of people actually do care about that now. And they want to read it, and they want to know that their money is going somewhere that they agree with, that they value, all of those things. So those two are very important. Let's see. Let's talk about Google's local search, okay? The local search is actually fantastic, okay? Have you ever Googled something and then Google's like, can we use your location to do a Google search? And then you press yes or no. And sometimes you have search location automatically on. I don't like my location to be on all the time. But I'll say yes if I'm in a certain area, because if I'm looking for restaurants in Portland, Maine, I don't live in Portland, Maine. So if I press yes, Google is actually going to look at where I am, and it will only give me restaurants that are around me. Like if I search for places to eat, it's going to pull up just places to eat around where I am. So Google's local search, yeah. So while hang on, I'm going to rewind that. while a lot of social media channels are taking away from small businesses, right? Because you aren't getting that organic connection with your customers. Google is actually giving back to local businesses because they're saying, okay, I'm not just going to pull up these big chain restaurants that are all over, you know, all around. I'm only going to pull up local restaurants that are near you at that moment. Or, and it's not just restaurants, marketing business, you know, whatever you search for, it's only going to pull up the local ones around you. So if you don't have a website, you're losing out on those possible, you know, purchases or calendar reservations, you know, whatever it is that you're looking for. So one, have a website, but two, and I know this training isn't about Google, so I'm not going to go into detail with it, but make sure you're using the Google My Business and you have all that jazz set up, because Google's local search is fantastic and it really does help small businesses and help, you know, your little main streets, because if someone's pulling through and they need to know where to, if they just want to go shopping, they can just write shopping and then it will pull up all the little shops in that area, right? So Google's local search is like really, really great. So you want to make sure you have a website and have Google set up.
And Jillian, just as with your website, if you move, you need to make sure you update your location.
Absolutely. Keep
Google
all your
search
Google
as well.
stuff up to date. Yep. Because if you change your location on your website, Google may or may not automatically recognize that within your Google My Business. So you need to make sure both are up to date. Okay, so your website also gives you credibility. And I know that we talked about this a little bit earlier when we said that you should have, you know, your domain name, not jilliantaylor.weebly.com or jilliantaylor.wordpress.com, right? So your website builds your credibility. If you have a good domain name and you have your site security certificate, especially if you have an e-commerce store, you have original photos that are your photos of your products or services. That's important. I mean, there's a time and a place for stock photos. Don't get me wrong. We all use them. We all need them. But if your website is just based off stock photos, people can recognize that. Have your own photos, have someone take them, and it helps you build credibility. If you can link back to active social media accounts too, that will show people that you're a credible business, that, okay, if I, you know, checked out on this e-commerce store, that my credit card information is probably not going to get stolen. Like this business is the real deal. Also, having testimonials on your website is a great idea as well. It's okay to ask your customers that are really happy with a product or service to write you a recommendation or a testimonial and ask them if you can feature that on your website. Maybe if you're a bigger business or a school, because I know there's a few people from schools here, have a student write a testimonial, have a teacher write a testimonial about why they like to work there, right? I know that some of you may not have employees, so that doesn't really matter to you, but testimonials are really great and people read them. There's basically not a product that I purchase anymore without reading reviews and testimonials on any website. Amazon, even the skincare brands that everything that I buy, I'm reading the testimonials, and people do. They want to make sure that the product that they're getting or the service is worth their money. Right? So testimonials can be really helpful with that. When I put testimonials on websites, I really like to use the person's face with it, because it gives that customer or an employee, you know, whoever it is, it gives them that human feel, right? Like this testimonial actually came from a human. So if you can get their permission to use their photo and their, maybe even just the first name, no last name, on your website, they might, you know, that really adds that human element to the testimonial and makes it a little bit more credible and believable, if that helps. Okay. Another thing your website can do is take away your credibility, right? So having a website is fantastic. Having a bad website can actually hurt you, right? So if you're going to have a website, we got to do it right. Okay. So if you have outdated information, incorrect information, error screens that pop up, spelling and grammar. So that means if you're a really bad speller like I am, then you need to have someone to check over and read over all of your things. Even if you have an old, outdated layout, if your site isn't responsive, if your site looks terrible because it looks like it was built in like 2000 versus 2020, right? You just look less credible, right? So if you're going to put yourself out there on the World Wide Web, do it right. Okay, this is my last slide, okay? And I think this might be the most important reason to have a website, okay? Is that you get to control your online destiny, okay? You control the story and information that's on that website, and you own that platform. You're paying money for it, right? So I know a ton of businesses around here that's like, oh, we have a Facebook page. Okay, great. You don't own anything that's on that Facebook page. As soon as you press publish on Facebook, you are no longer the owner of that information. And if Facebook decides to delete your account because they didn't like something that you posted, you're gone. Gone. You don't own that platform. Instagram can do the same thing. What if social media, like the government wants to ban TikTok right now, right? So what if TikTok just disappeared and that was the only online platform you were on? You don't own it. It's gone. All of your hard work gone. That is why you need to have a website. You get to control your online destiny. You can push all of your marketing effort should push back to that. Not a Facebook page, not an Instagram page. Those are tools that you use to drive traffic to your website. Your website is your platform that you own, and no one can take it away from you unless the internet disappears, which I don't think that's going to happen. So yeah, having a website is the best way to control what people see, hear, read about you. And it keeps you safe too. Like I know I love to follow bloggers on Instagram, and I know a couple of them who will post something that's not even, it's not even bad, but Instagram labels it as against their guidelines, and their accounts have been disabled for weeks. And they're losing all of that money that they would be making because they've only done work on Instagram and didn't have a website to back it up, right? So anyways, that is everything that I have for all of you guys today to talk about websites. If you have any questions, like literally any question about marketing, even pushing, traffic to your website, anything like that, I'm happy to answer it right now. I will stop sharing my screen too, maybe, if it'll let me.
So Allison, do you want to go ahead and ask Jillian your question, or would you like me to?
There we go.
Okay, I can. She says, are decent photos taken with iPhone okay to use on a website, or are they not large enough files?
Yeah, no, you can use iPhone photos on websites. The only place that they might get a little wonky is like if you try to use an iPhone photo for like a big cover photo on the top, sometimes they look really good and sometimes they look really bad. So it just depends. You can always try publishing it on your website, and if you completely hate how it looks, then just switch it out for another photo. But yeah, iPhones, like a newer iPhone, takes a pretty decent picture. I cannot speak for Androids. I have never had one. So I'm sorry if anyone asks Android questions.
So I happen to know the designer for the sunrisecounty.org and washingtoncountyleadership.org websites. Would you want to pull one of those up and just do a really quick run through to show photos, or is that not necessarily?
It might, I think it might be a little wonky. I haven't logged into those websites in a while.
Oh, I don't mean back end. I mean just the front to show what a photo taken.
Oh, on an iPhone? Yeah, why don't you just pull up sunrisecounty.org, because I'm pretty sure some of your cover photos that are on the front screen are iPhone cover photos, and they really aren't that bad. A lot of times, what can go wrong with iPhone photos is that they can be like depending on your lighting, right? So if it's really dark, that's when iPhones get like really, you know, like you can see all the grain in it and everything. That doesn't look great.
So are you seeing the website?
Yes. Can you scroll on the, is the banner more, is there more than one banner now, or have they taken them all down? That's an iPhone photo that I took. I don't know where that one came from. I found that in our files, Jen.
Gotcha.
That is a stock photo, so I bet that's a high quality camera. I can't remember if that is an iPhone or a camera photo, the blueberries, not sure. But the lobster fishing one is an iPhone photo. So that one works fine and looks great, but it's also because it was good lighting, right? So if it's too bright or too dark, iPhone photos or any phone photos can get like really, really wonky. But yeah, in the right lighting, an iPhone photo will be just fine.
Cool. I was going to say the
yeah, I know some of these probably were iPhone photo or your phone photos, right, Jen?
yes, yeah.
Yep. And so they don't look bad. And quite honestly, a lot of times when you're putting photos on your website, you end up having to compress them a little bit. If not, they take a really, really long time to load on a website. So yeah.
Yeah, there.
Does anybody else have any other questions? I'm happy to answer like anything right now.
So we have a comment from Crystal. Oh, sorry. Crystal, did you want to go to the NHA page? Is that?
You don't have to go there. I was just going to give it to you as an example of a page that has on the SCEC site that has a number of iPhone photos in case you needed to use it as an example.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Is there anything that you were hoping to get out of this that I didn't cover too? Because I know that a lot of, you know, you're all over the spectrum of having no website to, yes, I already have a website.
I did have a question, and this could be like an after email or whatnot, but you mentioned that you know a few folks who take product and service photos. I'd be very interested to learn who they are because we're going to be looking to get pictures of the Entrepreneurship Center, and it might even be something we could refer future.
Yeah. My absolute favorite lady that I work with is Sarah Sullivan, and she has an office right downtown Bangor in one of the old historic buildings, and she owns Story Silo Media. But the best part about her is that where she shines, like the best thing about her is her product photo. She takes photos of products and photos of people working in their element. Like that's what she is good at. I mean, she takes good wedding photos and stuff like that too. She's a professional, but she really knows how to capture a product or a service, you know, really well. She does a really great job. She's taken photos for Whitney Reith, Machias Savings Bank, and a couple other places down here in Machias. So she knows the area and she travels down here. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Anyone else? If not, I won't keep you guys.
Oh, there, this is your chance.
But I will say that if you fill out the little things that Jen will send, if there is anything that I missed or you think I didn't cover really well, please let me know in there. If you don't want to, like, you know, say it in front of me, that's okay. I'm not going to be mad about it, because next year or the next time we offer this training, I can add that to make sure that we're covering everything that you want to hear. So yeah.
There,
Okay.
well, very quiet group today. So
A lot to think about.
thank you very much. And everyone, thank you for joining us. Next week is decoding search engine optimization with Ashley Hinson to go. So that will be another good one. I know that people, you know, that goes right along with the websites. You know, I mean, how do you make sure that your website is going to come up if somebody does run a search? That's something that I found with, I'm not sure why, but I get messages from Google saying, oh, your website was found in 27 searches this week, and 10 of them will be someone looking for ice cream. So, I mean, I don't know exactly how it works. So I'm going to appreciate that workshop very much. So, and we do it from Maria. We have a thank you, Jillian. The presentations are always so organized and well presented. So thanks, Maria. So everybody take care. I'll send out the evaluations and I look forward to seeing you all again.
Bye, everyone.
Hi, everyone. Thank you, Jillian.
You're welcome.
Bye.